Hey Mark, what can you tell me about introduce parameter object?
Introduce parameter object is useful when you have a method that has a lot of contextually related parameters. Parameters that should probably become a single instance of an object,
Okay.
of a new type. So here, for example, I am passing in street, city, the state or province, and the postal code. And I could combine all of those instead of passing in four parameters into a single new class, maybe call it address,
Hmm.
use that class instead. And so that would maybe be useful in my application to have a class called address. So I just select the parameters that are needed. They need to be adjacent. And by the way, if they're not adjacent to each other, you just can use reorder parameters to fix that. But I
Sure.
just select the ones that I want to turn into an object. I hit the CodeRush key and I choose introduce parameter object. Now the preview hint looks a little bit gnarly because it's suggesting a name by default matching the same method that I'm in with the word args on it. That's not a big deal.
Okay.
Don't worry about that. We'll just go ahead and choose it, introduce parameter object, and we'll call this address like that. I'm going to hit enter, and now it takes us to the struct declaration, and I'm just going to paste in what I had on the clipboard, give it an uppercase, and hit enter again.
Hmm.
And there is my new struct called address. Now that I have that inside there, I may just want to come in here and take this and say move type to file, get that out in its own file. Or if I had the option to put things in their own file, it would have put it in its own file. And there it is. It's got a constructor that takes the same four parameters. It's got properties, property
Hmm.
for each one of those pieces. It's got the private backing store as well. All of that's there for me. And if we come back over into the original over here, you can see now my method takes an address. And if we hit the tab key, we can see that this original call has now been changed to instantiate a new instance of the address class.
Very nice. So, I mean, that's pretty much hit up all the code you needed it to in one hit. You've got the information coming in, which is previously separate strings, is now absorbed into a new instance of a class. You've got the method signature itself, so it replaces the 4 or 5 separate parameters with a single parameter, obviously of the right type. And all of the references to those original parameters have now been redirected to the instance of address, in this case, that's coming in. And we've got address.street, address.city, everything resorted out. That would have taken ages to do by hand, and we did it in, what, less than a second,
Yeah,
in real time?
it's a nice refactoring when things are getting really messy. It's great when you're working with legacy code as well because
Sure.
legacy code tends to be messy, and so it allows you to make these kinds of changes if you need to.
Great stuff. Excellent stuff.